Welcome to Essential Vibration. Here you will learn how to raise your vibration and connect with the universe. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on your experience.
There are moments when life seems to follow a predictable flow. People pass by, appointments repeat themselves, the body moves automatically. But amid this apparent normality, a subtle, almost silent uneasiness arises, insisting on your attention. It is as if something is trying to communicate, a discreet but persistent presence that you cannot decipher. Perhaps it is just a vague feeling, a slight heaviness in your chest, a doubt that hovers between intuition, coincidence, or pure invention of the mind. But still, it is there, waiting for you to recognize it. Braden reminds us that we live within a unified field, a living web that responds to our emotions, choices, and intentions. The universe, more than an empty space, functions as an interactive organism, sensitive to what we carry within us. It not only observes, but participates, responds, and returns in the form of signals what we emit. And yet we are often blind to these responses, too busy with our urgencies, too immersed in the mental noise we create. Dispenza explains that the brain interprets everything that happens to us through the lens of past experiences. This means that even when the universe sends us messages, signals, or intuitions, many of them are lost because the filter of doubt distorts them. We vibrate at the frequency of disbelief, and at that vibration, what could be a profound call becomes noise. How many times have you felt something strong, but then dismissed it with the phrase, "It must be my imagination"? This is where many answers are erased before they even come to light. Perhaps it is simpler than we think. Just as a radio needs to be tuned to the right frequency to pick up a song, we also need to tune our minds and hearts. It's not that the answers don't exist. They are all around us all the time. What is missing is the tuning. Without it, we pass by obvious signs and treat them as mere coincidence. But when we learn to adjust our vibration, we begin to realize that life is constantly responding to us. And here comes the question that can completely change the way you see your experiences. What if what you call coincidence is actually a dialogue you never learned to hear, but which has always been happening? There are times when certain symbols seem to haunt us, a number that repeats itself insistently, a word that appears in different contexts, an image that keeps crossing your path. At first, you may even laugh it off, treating it as an unimportant curiosity. But at some point, this repetition begins to awaken something in you, as if an invisible presence were trying to make itself known. And yet the danger is great. When these signs are treated only as superficial coincidences, they lose the communicative power they carry. Braden describes these recurring patterns as markers. They are like small stones placed on the path to indicate that you are approaching a turning point, an imminent change in your journey. It is not about rigidly predicting the future, but about recognizing that the field in which we live sends reminders that something is moving. Each repetition is less about the object itself and more about the frequency you are touching, a subtle echo of the dialogue between your vibration and the life that surrounds you. The challenge is not to turn each repetition into prophecy, not to give in to the temptation to read everything as inevitable destiny. This is the risk of the anxious mind, seeing in every detail an absolute answer without considering the emotional context and coherence of the experience. The true meaning of signs is not in collecting them, but in realizing how they fit into the fabric of your emotions and circumstances. One way to deepen this perception is to observe. Observe without haste, without rigid expectations. When you allow yourself to note these recurrences over a period of time, you realize the difference between what is just a reflection of your thinking and what really resonates as a message. This distinction is subtle, but it transforms the way you relate to the world around you. It is the beginning of listening training, a kind of listening that goes beyond the ears and is done with the heart. There are experiences that seem too small to be called miracles, but too big to be ignored. An unexpected encounter, a phrase heard at just the right moment, a seemingly mundane event that suddenly changes the way you perceive the moment. The difference is not only in the external event, but in the silent impact it has within you. It is as if time slows down for a few seconds, allowing something greater to reorganize your perception of the present. This is the line that separates coincidence from synchronicity. Coincidence is random, a crossing without deep meaning. Synchronicity, on the other hand, is different. It touches your state of consciousness. It's not just what happened outside, but what happened inside. Suddenly, you find yourself more awake, more connected, as if you had received a response in nonverbal language, a reminder that life knows exactly where you are. Gregg Braden describes these experiences as microportals, moments when, for a fraction of time, the human mind and the unified field align in harmony. In these moments, external reality folds and reflects what your soul most needs to recognize. It's like looking into a secret mirror that doesn't show your physical image, but the vibrational image of who you are. But there is a necessary caution. When we turn the search for synchronicities into proof that something needs to be confirmed, we fall into the trap of spiritual anxiety. True synchronicity is not forced, does not need justification, does not depend on effort. It simply happens, and what makes it real is not its external intensity, but the silence it awakens in you. The true sign does not need to be hunted. It comes when you are in tune to receive it. There are times when the universe does not speak through images, numbers, or repetitions. It speaks through absence. An unexpected silence settles within you, as if the mental noise had been turned off for a few moments. It is not something you force, nor something you plan. Suddenly, the anxiety that seemed to occupy all the space dissolves without explanation. What remains is a serene, heavy, dense emptiness. And, paradoxically, it is in this emptiness that the message arrives. This silence is not an absence of life, but a concentrated presence. It is the space where words cannot enter, but where consciousness expands. Many confuse it with simple relaxation, but there is a difference. Relaxing is resting. This silence, however, is like receiving something that cannot be translated, only felt. It is as if the field around you adjusts, aligning itself with the rhythm of your heart and opening an invisible door to subtle answers. Gregg Braden shows that states of cardiac coherence facilitate this deep listening. When heart and mind come into harmony, communication with the field becomes clearer. It is not that the universe speaks louder, but that you finally put yourself on the same frequency. It is at this point that silence becomes language, a language that does not translate into sentences, but into an intimate certainty that the whole body recognizes. Allowing yourself this silence, even for a moment, is like creating a sacred space within yourself. It is there that life deposits the answers that cannot be put into words. It is there that you become able to perceive what previously went unnoticed. Silence, when true, weighs more than any speech because it does not convince through logic, but through the depth of experience. One of the biggest pitfalls in the journey of perceiving signs is believing that they need to arrive exactly as you imagine them. When we create rigid expectations, we close the door to other possibilities. It's like waiting for a letter to arrive in the mail when the message is already being delivered by a song on the radio, an unexpected gesture, or even a deep silence. The anxiety of wanting to shape the sign imprisons the experience, and what could be a revelation becomes frustration. Gregg Braden reminds us that the intelligence of the field does not respond to the linear logic we use to plan our lives. The field responds to vibrational alignment. This means that it is not the form that matters, but the essence of what we carry within. When we are open, the universe chooses the most unexpected means to reach us. A phrase uttered by a stranger, a mundane scene from everyday life, a look that touches us more deeply than words. Everything can become language when the vibration is in tune. It is common to hear stories of people who sought answers in dreams, trying to force specific messages while they slept, but who ended up receiving the clarity they needed in a chance encounter or in a seemingly irrelevant detail. The universe rarely chooses the path that the human mind has idealized. It chooses the most direct path to touch the heart, and that path almost never looks like what we expect. Letting go of form and focusing on the emotional state we want to achieve is like making room for the unexpected. It is letting life surprise us. When we do not demand that the sign come ready in the way we idealize, we become able to see answers in places we would never have looked. The invisible error dissolves when trust replaces rigidity. And at that moment, communication becomes clear, because it no longer depends on control, but on surrender. There is a subtle enemy that often goes unnoticed: the rush to want answers to come immediately. This impulse to decode everything now, to demand immediate clarity, not only distorts perception, but alters the vibration itself. It is as if anxiety creates a noise that masks the melody that was already being played. Instead of making room for the signal to manifest, haste interrupts it, making the dialogue with the universe increasingly confusing. Braden teaches that coherence is a delicate, almost fragile state when subjected to pressure. The field does not respond to the speed of our desire, but to the quality of our vibration. It is less about what we ask for and more about what we actually emit. When we are agitated, the field returns agitation to us. When we are confident, it responds with clarity. Haste, therefore, not only delays the response, but undoes it before it even arrives. This vibrational haste can be compared to a lake in which we try to see the reflection of the sky. If we continue to agitate the water, no matter how much the sky is there, its image is not revealed. Only when the surface is still does the reflection appear clearly. The same is true of the field around us. Life is already ready to show us, but we need to be calm for the image to become visible. Changing the question, when will the answer come, to how can I align myself to receive it, is a simple but transformative change. It shifts the focus from anxiety to presence. Instead of speeding up the process, it slows down the mind. Instead of asking for control, it opens up to attunement. In this silent shift, haste loses its power, and communication with the universe ceases to be a painful effort and becomes a natural flow. When we think of communication, we almost always imagine words, sounds, or images. But dialogue with the universe does not happen in this common logic. It is more subtle, deeper, quieter. Braden reminds us that this communication with the unified field is not magic, nor is it the privilege of a few. It is a skill that can be cultivated through conscious observation, vibrational attunement, and a willingness to listen with the heart. Dispenza adds that every time we recognize and honor a sign, we strengthen neural connections that make us more sensitive to the next ones. The brain learns to register and value what previously went unnoticed, and little by little we create a new internal map. It's like training an invisible muscle. The more we use it, the more natural it becomes. With each sign recognized, perception expands, confidence grows, and dialogue deepens. True mastery is not about collecting signs, filling notebooks with symbols, or seeking answers in every detail. It is about adjusting our internal state, remaining coherent, and living in such a way that dialogue happens all the time, effortlessly. It is not about looking for signs, but about living in such a way that they reveal themselves naturally. Just as learning a new language requires practice, attention, and dedication, understanding the universe also requires loving discipline. It is a daily exercise of observing, feeling, and trusting. It is like being willing to listen more than to speak, to welcome more than to demand, to allow more than to control. In this process, every detail of life can become a word in this invisible language. In the end, the miracle is not just noticing the signs. The real miracle is realizing that we were never alone, that life in its silence and symbols has always been in dialogue with us. Learning this language is, in fact, remembering what we already knew, that we are part of a living, pulsating, conscious network, and that when we tune our vibration, the entire universe responds.
If this video resonated with you, like, comment, and follow Essential Vibration for more content that elevates your energy and awakens your consciousness.